So, I'm going to present to you my thesis, which is as follows. I think Oscar Piastri has a better shot at the F1 Drivers' Championship this year, 2025, than Lando Norris. And I'll give three key reasons why I think so. First one being time, second one being mentality, and third one being mentorship. And I'll get to what time means. But before all that, a little bit of disclaimer. I'm not saying Oscar Piastri is going to win the Drivers' Championship this year. This is more my argument why he has a better chance to win the Drivers' Championship this year than Lando Norris. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put money on Oscar Piastri to win the Drivers' Championship over Lando Norris for these three key reasons. Now, the first one, time. What I mean by that is, we're going to go over to Wikipedia real quick. It's more about time and championship mentality, and championship environment. So what I mean by that is, the last time Lando won a championship in his racing career was in 2017, and that was back in Formula 3, so F3. That's a long time. That's 8 years ago. A lot can happen between 8 years ago to now, and of course the memories of those environments and that situation and how you handled those things, I won't say is lost to time or is forgotten or anything like that, but it's not as fresh in your memory. So it's when you encounter these situations like you do now in 2025 with McLaren being the front runner in the field, you have a very, very strong case and a strong opportunity to become Drivers' Championship this year. It's an environment which you haven't faced in 8 years, which is a long time. Compare that with Oscar Piastri, who the last championship he won was in Formula 2, and that was in 2021, and that was 4 years ago. So what I mean by time is Oscar has won a championship more recently, which means he's been in an environment around team, around those situations in which he needed to get the job done. And that's fresher in his memory than Lando Norris. I'm not saying that Lando doesn't have the capability to get back into that rhythm, that mentality, that championship kind of run and things like that. But I'm saying Oscar is more familiar. It's fresher in his memory. He knows how to navigate these things just because it's a little bit more fresh in his memory. It also doesn't help Lando, I would say, that he's been with McLaren, and in most of his time with McLaren was a midfield car, so that mentality kind of switches between these junior formulas where, technically it's a level playing field. It's not exactly, but technically it is. And then everyone theoretically has a chance to go for that Drivers' Championship. That's not the case in Formula 1, very obviously, right? A lot of the technical regulations, make it so maybe one or two teams max really have the potential to, and the car really to take a stab at that championship. So for most of Lando's McLaren career, he's been in a midfield McLaren car. So I think being in that environment in his more recent years and more recently in his memory, it's a little bit uncomfortable for him, I think, and I believe, to be in this championship kind of front runner and position. I wouldn't say uncomfortable, that's probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean, right? It's a little bit newer to him, at least within McLaren, of being in this situation and how to navigate these things. So that's my first kind of main component here, is time and how kind of the environment and these experiences of these drivers, Lando versus Oscar being a bit newer to McLaren. It's his third year at McLaren, but still a little bit newer versus Lando. My second argument here for why Oscar has a better chance to win the Drivers' Championship than Lando this year is mentality. Now, this one has been a clear talking point on social media, commentators, analysts, all these other things, in which Lando is really self-critical of himself, especially when he doesn't do too well. Now, that in of itself isn't bad. It's not bad to look internally, analyze what you did, wrong, you could have done different. But it's another thing in which you want to not throw that negativity out there. You know what I mean? So if you throw negativity out there, you don't want that negativity to surround you. So it's not more so of Lando saying these things necessarily. It's more of people see that he's negative about himself, so others are going to perceive him to be a bit negative, and then treat him a little bit differently, and then Lando notices that in his interactions with media, with fans, with people, and it just builds unneeded pressure, right? So it's better for Lando if he didn't say these things, and of course he maintained more of neutral responses when he isn't having the session, the qualifying, the race that he wants to have. It's better for him to be more neutral about it rather than negative. Compare that with Oscar, who is very calm, composed in all interviews. Haven't seen an instance of him, lashing out or being, sad or negative or things like that. He's very honest and straightforward, which is good, but he's also very calm, very neutral, and that's a very good quality to have, especially in a championship run where you don't want to have these swings of performance, you don't want to have these swings of mentality. If you want to win a championship, you have to be level and have that consistency. So that's my second reason why I think Oscar Piastri has a better chance. Now, last reason is mentorship, and this one's a little bit more interesting in my opinion, because Oscar, of course, has Mark Webber as his mentor, his manager, so he's able to learn a lot from Mark Webber in what Webber experienced through his Formula One career. I think this is especially important because on Lando, compare that to Lando, where Lando doesn't really have, at least that we know of a mentor that he, or a manager that he interacts with a lot, that knows how to navigate these kind of championship scenarios, or these scenarios within the team, within teammates, and things like that. So earlier in Lando's McLaren career, that was Zach Brown, really, when Zach Brown was kind of pushing, being the hype man for Lando, especially when he was going for podiums. He was really pushing that midfield McLaren car. It was really Zach Brown that was his hype man, that kind of mentor, so to speak, which he doesn't have now. McLaren has definitely taken a step back in this kind of championship approach, very hands-off on these drivers, in the sense that they're not choosing one over the other to win the Drivers' Championship. It's very open, and I think Lando, I wouldn't say isn't taken back by that, but it's again a new experience, a new environment for Lando to navigate, in which you have this very up-and-coming driver in Oscar Piastri. Last year he had issues with his race pace and managing the tires, but this year, at least so far, Oscar's been doing a much better job, and that's just added pressure, right? Lando doesn't have that hype man, that kind of mentor that, either privately or publicly kind of tells him that you're doing a good job, this is what you could do a little bit better, and learn from me. I'll tell you my experiences, and Lando could take that to heart and do better in the next session, next race, whatever it is. So I'd like to hear what you think about this, but those are my three main key reasons why I think Oscar has a better shot at the championship this year than Lando does. Let me know if you think that's accurate, that's not, if I'm misspeaking, or if you have different thoughts about it, maybe different reasons. Let me know, but I'll see you next time.